Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. In this video, our topic is transport in plants. This video is taken from Plant Physiology series, CBSE class 11th, part 1st of chapter 12. Now, at first, see here the lecture overview that what we will see in this video. So in this video, we will see introduction of transport of water, minerals and organic solids in plants, means of transport in which diffusion, facilitated diffusion, active transport, and at last is comparison of different transport process. Now, our first topic, which is transport of water in plants. Since the plants do not have a well-organized circulatory system, that is blood vascular system or lymphatic system, as found in higher animals, they perform the process of transportation of materials in a slight different way. The materials to be transported from one part of the plant to another are also slightly different. In case of plants, these materials include gases, minerals, water, hormones, photosynthetes and organic solutes. They are needed to be transported to short distances as well as to very long distances. Long distance transportation occurs mainly through the vascular system, that means vascular tissues, which are xylem and phloem. So if we talk about the transport of water in plants, plants absorb water mainly from the roots, particularly from the root hairs, and transport it to the very tip of the growing stem in a well-organized manner. Absorption of water is also known as water uptake. It involves the simple process of diffusion, osmosis and water potential gradients. So water diffusion, osmosis and the water potential gradients we will see in the next videos. Once the water enters into the root hairs, it moves deeper into root layers by the two distinct pathways, which are symplast pathway and apoplast pathway. Short distance movement of water taking place from cell to cell across the membrane involves physical forces such as diffusion, osmosis and water potential differences. While the long distance movement, however, involves complex processes such as root pressure and transpiration full. So, finally the water is lost to atmosphere by the process of transpiration, which you can see in this picture, and through guttation. Now, transport of minerals. So, what are transport of minerals? The mineral elements present in the soil are also absorbed by roots. They are transported upward through xylem along with the water. In rooted plants, the transport of inorganic nutrients is multidirectional. Plants obtain carbon dioxide and oxygen from atmosphere. The remaining minerals, nutrients are absorbed from soil through the plant roots. Mineral nutrients are the chemical elements required as an essential nutrient by all plant species to perform all the necessary functions. The process of uptake or transport of mineral nutrients is carried out by the plant cells in the two different ways, which are passive absorption and the second is active absorption. Now, after this, translocation of organic solutes. The organic compounds are mainly synthesized in the photosynthetic leaves and young growing apex of the shoots and roots. Then they are exported to all other parts of the plant including storage organs. Unlike water transport through xylem, the organic solute is transported through phloem. Such a transport of organic solute through phloem is called translocation. In most of the rooted terrestrial plants, transport of water is essentially unidirectional, that is from root to stem, leaves, flowers and fruits. However, translocation of organic solutes, hormones and inorganic nutrients is multidirectional. That means synthesized in one part and then exported to all parts of the plant, including storage organs. The inorganic nutrients are absorbed by roots and transported upwards through xylem. They may be withdrawn from the old leaves or other parts undergoing senescence and moved to the growing parts. Thus, a flowering terrestrial plant, there is a very complex traffic of compounds moving in different direction. Now, after this, here, what are the means of transport? So, there are three important means of transport of materials into and out of the cell. So, what are these means of transport? First one, that is diffusion. Second is facilitated diffusion. And the last, third is active transport. We will see one by one in the next slides. So at first, see here in the means of transport that the process of diffusion. So what is diffusion? If a bottle filled with volatile substance such as perfume or ethyl ether is opened at corner of the room, the odor of the perfume or ether after some time can be smelled from another corner. Similarly, if a small crystal of water-soluble dye is placed at the bottom of a beaker and then filled with water, dye molecules will dissolve and the color will spread slowly throughout the water. These two examples here clearly indicate that the molecules have diffused out from the higher concentration to all the directions. So, diffusion is therefore the movement of molecules or ions of a solute or a solvent, be it a solid, liquid or gas from the region of its higher concentration to that of its lower concentration. So what is diffusion? Diffusion means the movement of molecules or ions of a solute or a solvent, be it a solid, liquid or gas from the region of its higher concentration to that of its lower concentration. Naturally, the molecules or ions are in high partial pressure when concentrated, and thus these molecules are diffused out from the region of high partial pressure to the region of low partial pressure as a result of their inherent kinetic energy or motion energy. The molecules continue to move until an equilibrium is obtained. So, the definition of diffusion given here, but it does not give a clear indication of energy requirements of the process. However, a more meaningful definition based on the chemical potential, that means the amount of free energy per gram molecular weight of a substance. So here the next definition of the diffusion is the net movement of a substance from an area of its high chemical potential into the area of its lower chemical potential as a result of random translational kinetic motion of molecules, ions or atoms. So the direction of diffusion of one substance is dependent of the direction in which a second substance is diffusing. So both are independent. For example, when diffusion of more than one substance takes place in different directions, the movement is independent of each other. So the rate may slow down a bit because of collisions between the two different kinds of particles, but their direction remains unchanged. Now, here, in the process of diffusion, a type of pressure is existed, which is known as diffusion pressure. So, what is diffusion pressure? In short, you can say dP. The diffusing molecules or ions exert a pressure called diffusion pressure, and this can be defined as the potential ability of a molecule or ion to diffuse from an area of its greater concentration to an area of lesser concentration. So, the diffusion pressure is directly proportional to the concentration or the number of diffusing particles. That is, greater the concentration of diffusing particles in the system, their diffusing pressure will also be greater and vice versa. Now, after this, here you can see the factors influencing the rate of diffusion. So, which factors influence the rate of diffusion? Every component of a system possesses free energy. The phenomenon of diffusing is considered as a differences in the free energy. In other words, you can say diffusion of molecules or ions occur from a region of its higher free energy to a region of its lower free energy. All the factors which bring about changes in free energy, therefore, will ultimately influence diffusion. So, what are the main factors? First one is temperature. So, an increase in temperature results in an increase in the rate of diffusion. This is because an increase in temperature causes increased kinetic energy of diffusing particles. Next is density of diffusing substance. So the rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the square root of the density of the diffusing substance, which you can see, which is mathematically expressed as R is inversely proportional to under root D, where R is the rate of diffusion, D is density of the gas. Let R1 and R2 be the rate of diffusions of the two gases of densities D1 and D2 respectively. Here, this equation, that means R is indirectly proportional to under root D, is known as Graham's law of diffusion. Now, medium in which diffusion occurs. The rate of diffusion will be slower if the medium is more concentrated. That means an increase in the number of foreign molecules causes the rate of diffusion to decrease. For example, a gas diffuses more rapidly through a vacuum than air. And the last is diffusion pressure gradient. The term diffusion pressure gradient implies the application of the concentration differences over a specific distance. In general, greater the diffusion pressure gradient, more rapid will be the net diffusion of molecules. So these are the factors which influence the rate of diffusion. After this, now the importance for conditions which are importance of the diffusion in case of plants. So, diffusion is a passive and slow movement of materials which occurs along the concentration gradient. No energy expenditure takes place. Diffusion facilitates some following physiological process in case of plants, like diffusion helps in the absorption and distribution of water in plants. It keeps the cell walls of the internal plant tissue moist. The exchange of gases, for example, like the carbon dioxide intake and the oxygen output in photosynthesis and carbon dioxide output and oxygen intake in respiration, takes place by the principle of independent diffusion. The process of diffusion is involved in the transpiration of water vapor. The ions are absorbed by the simple diffusion during passive salt uptake. Diffusion is an effective means of transport of substances over a very short distance and helps in the translocation of food materials. So these are the importance of diffusion in plants. Now, what are the conditions important for the diffusion across a cellular membrane? So, diffusion of substances across a cellular membrane occur only when a gradient exists between the two sides of the membrane. Diffusion occurs along the concentration gradient. Smaller molecules cross the membrane faster as compared to larger ones. Particles which are lipid soluble, that is lipophilic or hydrophobic, can easily diffuse through the cell membrane as the lipid is a major constituent of the membrane. Hydrophilic substances, Like the substances which are soluble in water, that is glucose, do not pass through a biological membrane by simple diffusion. They are therefore transported across a cell membrane by facilitated diffusion, that is carrier mediated diffusion. So these are the conditions important for the diffusion across a cellular membrane. After this, now second is facilitated diffusion. So what is facilitated diffusion? See here. Facilitated diffusion is the spontaneous passage of molecules or ions across a biological membrane mediated by specific transmembrane carrier proteins without involving the expenditure of metabolic energy. It is a kind of passive transport in which the molecules move across the membrane with the help of transport proteins down a concentration gradient. Small uncharged molecules can easily diffuse across a biological membrane. It is called simple diffusion. However, the charged ions or polar molecules which are soluble in water find it difficult to cross a biological membrane by the process of simple diffusion. The examples of such water-soluble substances are glucose, sodium ions and chloride ions. These molecules and ions are water-soluble. These water-soluble molecules and ions cannot pass through a biological membrane due to the hydrophobic nature of the lipids that make up cell membrane. Transport of such water-soluble substances is facilitated by the transport proteins. The transport proteins are embedded in a lipid bilayer of cellular membranes and provide sites at which such molecules cross the membrane. The transport of protein themselves do not create a concentration gradient. A concentration gradient must already be present in order to facilitate diffusion. A transport protein simply provide a binding site that binds the specific molecules like glucose or ions to be transported. After binding the specific molecules, the transport protein changes its shape and carries the molecule across the membrane where it releases the molecule. The transport protein returns to its original shape and waits to catch another molecule to be transported. Thus, the carrier protein acts as a selective channel through which the molecules are transported across the membrane. The rate of transport reaches a maximum when all the transporter proteins are being used. This is the stage of saturation. Larger transporter proteins, which create huge pores into the outer membrane of the plastids, mitochondria and bacteria, are called porins. They provide passage for the transportation of larger molecules or ions. Porins act as a molecular filters for hydrophilic compounds. The channels that regulate the flow of water across the membrane are made up of 8 different types of aquaporins that form water selective channels across the membrane. So, here you can see the facilitated diffusion showing uniport, antiport and symport. So, what are these ports? So, passive and symports and antiports, sometimes two different types of molecules move across the membrane by the process of facilitated diffusion. It is carried out by the carrier proteins embedded in the membrane. When both kinds of molecules move in the same direction, that is either from outside to inside or from inside to outside of the cell, it is called symport, which is you can see that is second is a symporter. When they move in opposite direction, like the first, like the antiporter, so it is known as antiport. Here you can see that means A and B, both molecules move in opposite direction, and when a particular type of molecules move across a membrane independent of other molecule, the diffusion is called uniport, like the first picture. So uniport transports one substance in one direction, symport transports two different substances in the same direction, and the antiport transports two different substances in the opposite direction. So these are all about the passive symports and antiports. Now, after this active transport, what is active transport? The transport of solute linked with some metabolic reaction or reactions involving expenditure of energy is called active transport. The molecules or ions in active transport cross a protoplasmic membrane via plasma membrane or the tonoplast against the chemical potential gradient. It is assumed that a specialized protoplasmic membrane constituent, that is a carrier, is involved in solute transport across membranes. The exact nature of the carrier molecules is still not clearly known, but it is visualized that these are some transport enzymes located here, and there is the membrane expanding from one surface to the other. The carrier molecules act as carriers of the ions, and molecules cross the protoplasmic membrane in a turnover method. First of all, the carrier molecule binds with the solute undergoing transport at the outer free surface and forms a complex. The complex then moves across the membrane. Here in this picture you can see this movement probably occurs due to diffusion across a membrane, rotation at 180 degree, or by its conformational changes when bound to an ion or molecules. Finally, the carrier solute complex breaks apart and the inner space releasing the ions or molecules. These substances once taken into inner space cannot return back to the outer surface. The carrier molecules return back to its original structure to the outer space to pick up fresh ion or molecules. So, Singer, a scientist in 1964, 74-75, proposed a model of solute transport. According to it, the integral proteins that occurs in the form of bridges in the entire membrane, which you can see in the picture, act as a channel through which the substances are transported. Before this, in the before videos, we see about the model that is known as fluid mosaic model. So in that model, you know that lipids layer in which the proteins are embedded. So here there are some integral proteins in the lipid bilayer, that means the cell membrane, and which act as a bridge in the entire membrane and the substances transported through it. So the peripheral protein bind specific ions or molecules and then get attached to the integral proteins containing hydrophilic pores. Finally, a conformational changes in the protein takes place that causes release of the solute across the membrane. Now, after this, what are the differences? That means comparison of the different transport process. So if we talk about the different transport process, there are three, that is simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion and active transport. Simple diffusion occurs down the concentration gradient, while the facilitated occurs down the concentration gradient, and the active transport occurs against the concentration gradient. So the simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion both occurs down the concentration gradient, and the active occur against the concentration gradient. In simple diffusion does not require special carrier molecules, while in case of facilitated and active transport both requires special transport proteins or the carrier proteins. The process in case of simple diffusion is not sensitive to inhibitors, while in facilitated, transport proteins are sensitive to inhibitors which react with protein side chains, and the same with the active transport. In active transport also carrier proteins are sensitive to inhibitors which react with the protein side chains. In case of simple diffusion, energy is in the form of ATP is not required. In facilitated diffusion also energy in the form of ATP is not required, while in active transport energy is required in the form of ATP. In simple diffusion, in this process molecules are not selective, while in facilitated diffusion, highly selective and acts as molecular sieves, while in active transport, these are also highly selective. Simple diffusion, here the saturation of transport does not occur. In facilitated diffusion, transport saturates when all the proteins are being used, and in active transport, transport saturates when all carrier molecules are being used. Simple diffusion is a passive transport. Facilitated diffusion is also a passive transport, and active transport is an active transport method because here ATP is required in the form of energy. So this is the end of video in which we knew about the diffusion, facilitated diffusion and active transport process and their comparison. Now the next video will be on the plant-water relations. So if you understand this video, please like and share it and subscribe to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. If you have any questions, any queries or any suggestions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for the watching.